being a parent, my son was supposed to once again, you guys have been used to seeing that. Oh yeah, I'm going to videotape, and then he disappeared, so it's fine. But I'll say this.
You want it taped?
It's going. What's been really a privilege for me this summer is my son has taken up Little League baseball. Any baseball fans here?
Yes.
And so I also played. I actually enjoy. I know Issa, that's football is your sport, but baseball was mine. I was a left-handed second baseman. That's a big thing. So a lot of backhands. So this got me thinking about what kind of story, just being inspired by my son's evolution as a young man and his sports life was to come. And so I come up with a story about American baseball. We all know Tommy Lasorda. And even if you don't like baseball, understand the game, I think you will enjoy this story. So one night, a Dodgers minor league team being coached by the legendary Tommy Lasorda, he was leading Tucson, Arizona team by 1 run in the 8th inning. But Tucson had the bases loaded with 2 outs. According to Don Martin in Team Thinking, he was a person who did a lot of talk about baseball back in the day. Lasorda decided to pep his pitcher, a left-handed named Bobby O'Brien. And so he walked up to the mound and said, Bobby, if the heavens open up right now, and you could hear that voice of the big Dodger in the sky say to you, Bobby, you're going to die and come up to heaven. And this is the last batter that you ever face. How would you like to meet the Lord? Getting this man out or letting him get a hit from you? That's a big thing. It's like that pressure. He just put the pressure on him. And so, of course, Bobby O'Brien said, I'd like to face him by getting this guy out. And Lasorda said, that's right. You would. So now, how do you know that after you throw the next pitch that you're not going to die? This might really be the last hitter that you're ever going to face. And if this is it, you want to face the Lord by getting him out. Lasorda figured, and if anyone plays sports, a lot of the coaches, they use a lot of reverse psychology. Most coaches are probably psychology majors. So Lasorda figured it was just about the best pep talk he had ever given his pitchers. And he strutted away confidently back to the dugout. Well, O'Brien wound up and threw the pitch, and the batter lined a base hit to right field and knocked in 2 runs. Now, 2 things. If you're a left-handed thrower, you don't like to throw against left-handed batters. You don't. That's just, it's awkward. It's an awkward thing. So Lasorda, and this was amazement. So Lasorda walked up, he was beside himself. He said, Bobby, what happened? He said, I don't know, Skip, it's like this. You had me so worried about dying that I couldn't even concentrate on the batter. And I know that many people in society are worried about dying. In fact, there are so many people concerned if they're going to die that they don't even get to enjoy what is right there before them. But there are other people, when you think of it, and they think about their own death, they think about how little time they have left. They actually live more intentionally and more fully. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, among other things. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and I know the practitioners know about this, and a lot of other folks know about Kubler-Ross. She is one of the authorities on death and dying. And she says this: if it's only when we truly know and understand that we have limited time on earth, and that we have no way of knowing when our time is up, that we begin to live each day to the fullest, as if it was only one we had. And that's true, because we all have limited time on earth. Nobody knows. I mean, a lot of us would love to be here 1,000 years, or maybe not. Some of us, the average person, say about 100 years. There have been people who have surpassed that. And so let's talk about the definition of living. And we shared this before. Living, really, we should all prepare not to die, but to live. The thought of death should slip from our consciousness altogether. And when this great event of the soul takes place, it should and will be a beautiful, sublime, and glorious experience. As the eagle is free from its cage and soars to its native heights, so the soul, free from the heavy home of heavy flesh, will rise and return to his Father's house, naked and unafraid. and we talk about being, living large and in charge. Reverend Shaw always kind of kid around like, wow, where is she getting these topics? Living large and in charge. I gotta walk around and wear my vest, and I'm 5'7", y'all. So I don't know how large. I might go out, but I'm not going up. So how can I make this something that you guys get?
Big presence, big presence.
Exactly. The truth is, when we live large, each and every one of us in here, our living largeness look different.
Yes.
And so some of us may not be doctors. Some of us may not be millionaires. Some of us may not be the greatest parents on earth. Some of us may not be rich. Some of us, there's so many things. But the truth is, we have that potential in each and every one of us. I'm going to talk about that. Because as I listen to everyone here singing, "We Are a Place for Individual and World Transformation," that talks to the span of evolution as it relates to individuals and this vision that we have at CSL. We have a global vision. I'm going to discuss a little bit more about that. But I want to go into some points of views. Ralph Waldo Emerson, he talks about living and dying and being, and we all love it. If you've ever taken a foundations class or a roots class, you've come in contact with Ralph Waldo Emerson, at least in this community. Some of us have done it outside of this home. So he says, unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow.
That's right.
Say that again.
Unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow. Oliver Wendell Holmes says this: a man's mind stretched by a new idea can never go back to its original dimensions. So it's almost like you have literally killed the person that you were. And that's really, in order to live, you must die. Eric Butterworth, he teaches a lot, he was a unity minister. He says, don't go through life, grow through life. And I think I say that for a lot of us. We have, Christian refers to them as ghost stories. We tell these stories. And to some of us, there's stories of resolution and stories of overcoming obstacles. But if you look at them, it's really about how you've grown. And the same thing when I heard the story when you talked about your daughter. She's growing through life.
Yes.
She's growing through life. So being an interfaith minister, I'm going to also go into the Holy Bible. And I prefer the Lamsa version. And in coming soon, he used to mention there will be a metaphysical Bible wisdom. In the Lamsa version of the Bible, Romans 12:2 states, "Do not imitate the way of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds, that you may discern what is good and acceptable and the perfect will of God." And that's a lot. That's a mouthful, because what essentially they are saying is, never mind what the world is thinking. Everyone in this room have made a decision to be here regardless of whatever their old ways of thinking were, whatever their old religious philosophical beliefs were, whatever their families said. Some of us here, our families disagree with us being here. That's okay. That's okay. But the truth is, you must die before living. And dying not in the physical sense, but in the spiritual sense, that old way goes by the wayside. So we are renewed. All of us in here. We talk about living large and being in charge. We can't talk, I don't know, some of us, I got a lot of money in my pocket. I'm in charge. I got a big cigar, a big car, a big house. That's nice for those of you that want that. But some of us, living large means so many things, so many different things. The truth is, as we talk about living in an abundant universe, there's so many things that we can be that God has made it possible. So I want to talk about the CSL's global vision on a larger scale. Like I said before, we talk about being a place for individual and world transformation. And for those of you who don't know, the Centers for Spiritual Living is a global community comprised of 450 centers, teaching chapters, focused ministry study groups, and spiritual living circles in 30 countries around the world. That's large. That's huge. For those of you that think it's small, well, it's just a small spot on the corner, 2129 North in East Baltimore. Whatever it is, West Baltimore, East Baltimore, and we're bigger than that. There's a whole lot of people behind me. There's a whole lot of people behind Reverend Michelle, behind Reverend Muriel. There's a whole lot of people that sit and agree with you right here and now where you are. So know that we are much larger than what you see. Now, I will tell you, when you walk around on the West Coast, you have more chances of meeting more people like you than you will on the East Coast. But that's, SEC is going to be the catalyst for that change. We will be there. And I want to share with you the global vision, because the global vision is important for us to know. It's interesting to talk about the vision of how, what things are and how large it's going to be. But let's talk about really what is the vision of this spiritual community as a whole. And so CSL's global vision starts with, we see all life as an expression of God. We see all life as an expression of God. We're not judging. We're not separating. We're not excluding. We're all inclusive. And by that he's saying all life is a representation of spirit. No matter how high or low on this spectrum of life as we know it. We know the differences that we all have. But I guarantee you, in the midst of the differences that we love to talk about that we all have, there's a whole lot more in common that we do have. And that is what is a part of our CSL Global Vision. We see a peaceful world that works for everyone. Although, some of us, we like to reveal thoughts of this only being an example of a utopia. This was possible. This was possible. And will once again be that. Think about it. When you had an idea for something that no one else had, you said, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And it happens. The same thing with this spiritual community. Ernest Holmes went through what he went through and made a decision. We can go even further. We talk about in the more contemporary times. Reverend Paul, the founder. Reverend Michelle, when she decided to go to ministerial school. Brother Issa and Sister Ronnie, when they made decisions to go to practice. There's so many things. We have these ideas, and they come into fruition in our lives. And that's true for this community, and it's true for each and every one of you sitting here. So we talk about that living large, that expansion, that growth that Krista shared with earlier. We see humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence. And I understand that, you can't watch the news. The news will have you doubting humanity. Like, wow. Woo! What is going on in the world? That Marvin Gaye song. But the truth is that humanity exists in all beings with the ability to demonstrate the most beautiful and wonderful things. And we can only just see it in each other, in ourselves. We see a world in which people live in alignment with spiritual principles, emphasizing unity with God and with each other and the creative power of thought. Now, if there's one thing you're going to learn when you take classes here is the power of your thought, the power of your words. That is the one thing you will get. Everyone here has been at least exposed to the idea and the fundamental principle that thoughts are things. And because of this, we know the power behind this principle. And therefore, it's important for us to continue to live in unison with one another along the lines of knowing that we are all one. We envision a world in which individually and collectively we are all called to a higher state of consciousness and being. And what does that mean? I'm going to share what it means to me. It means no more victimhood. No more limited thinking. No more race consciousness. Imagine that. You are, in that sense, living large. And not only will you live large within, but folks are going to see you. Some of your friends are going to say, what are you on? Let me get some of that. And you say, come on over 10:30, Sunday, 2129 North Charles Street. That's what you say. We see a world without boundaries, where each and every person has enough food, a home, a sense of belonging, a world of peace and harmony, enfranchisement and justice. And this speaks to a world without lack. The truth is, there's a small percentage of the world's population controlling most of the world's resources. That's a problem. Let's talk about equanimity. Let's talk about abundance being shared. There is really enough for everyone.
Yes.
There really is. And this philosophy teaches that. And that's an example of living large. Don't think small, think large. You talk about you want a scooter, and no offense to anyone who has a scooter, but you can have an Audi. You can have, well, I don't know what your preference is. You want a European car. You can have Cadillac, BMW, Mercedes. You can have all of that. We see a world where there is a generous and continuous sharing of resources. And I just shared that, but which is interesting is that this is the concept that denies lack. They had to say that twice. There's too much lack in the universe. I don't know, I'm not enough. Do all of that. that to each other. Look at each other. You are all of that.
All that.
We envision a world in which forgiveness, whether for errors, injustices, or debts, is the norm. And as a clinician, that is a really big thing, because you talk about people who are trying to heal and they're suffering through things, and we talk about this a lot. Most of us, we talk about how we've been hurt. Whatever happened to us took 3 seconds to happen, and we've been carrying it on for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Let it go. If that person didn't know about it, let them know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's not yours to tell them. And I will say this, and my wife and I, we talk about this a lot. Most of us, and I don't want to say all because that's a presumption, but the truth is that we're all trying to meet our own needs, whatever that need is. And so you're angry with that person, what he or she did to you, they're trying to meet their need. Understand that. If you recognize what that means, healing begins. I don't know how many people what's that, Simon the Grill, rubbing his hands together? I'm going to hurt so-and-so. Most people, and I'm not saying that there aren't people out here like that, but they're still trying to meet their needs. And we have to think about that. Even the people who we know that we have hurt ourselves. We see a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. The creative life force, that as we know as spirit, as God, only knows how to create. And in his creations lies the beauty, more beauty. And in this measurement of beauty, nature and love would never be contained. Imagine that. Nature and love is never contained. It just grows. It just flourishes. Sometimes we try to stop it. Let it be. We see a world in which fellowship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. How about that? And what that means is that any differences that we have with each other are acknowledged and accepted as they are. And I said this before. In fact, we should see that our differences are more of an asset than an example of nonconformity. I'm going to say that again. We should, each and every one of us in here, should see our differences more of an asset than an example of nonconformity. They're not like me. He's not saying the way I want him to say it. She's not doing what I want her to do. It's an asset. That's how you grow. Imagine being in a room with the exact same example of yourselves. That's a problem. And if you've ever been married, you know that that's not true and that's not possible. If you've ever been in a relationship, I'm not even going to just put it on marriage. If you've ever been in a relationship with anyone, you know that that's not possible. And finally, the 11th vision. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. And basically what they're essentially saying is that we live in conjunction with one another rather than in conflict with one another. That is a well thought out vision. This is a community, this is how large they were thinking. And Reverend Michelle probably can tell you better. The committee that decided on the global vision really thought large. They thought large. They didn't say, oh, we're going to keep, this is about how much money we can make. This is about how many centers we can have. This is about how we can change society as we know it. That's living large. So writer and motivational speaker Emily Myrick tells a story about how we are all only here for a short time. And I shared a story earlier about the baseball guy. It said on an average of 70 to 100 years seems long, but it actually goes faster than we all realize. It's so incredibly important that we live every day to its fullest potential. If you're 87 years old and laying in your deathbed, do you want to look back and think of the things that you wish you had done? Most of us don't. Most of us don't. Most of us, so if your goal is to jump out of a plane, how many here jumped out of a plane before? Anybody here? Okay, we got 2. How many people learn how to swim as an adult? Okay, we got a whole lot more. What else? How many people learn how to play an instrument? Okay. How many people?
Not good.
How many people here have, and there's a whole lot of things we could name. There's a whole lot of things we can name. But in the interest of time, there's a lot of things that we should do. And I'm going to say to you, do those things. Don't hold back. I don't want to look back. God forbid something happens, that I don't have control over. And remember all the times when I didn't let myself go and didn't have fun. I want to remember the times when I actually let myself go and tried new things, where I was open to try those things. On our anniversary, on our wedding week, Kristen, I know this was the first time for her, we did the zip lining. We zip lined. And that was an interesting thing because I think I spent more time worrying about her, like, where's my, when she make sure I'm waiting for her. But we had a good time. And we were going over the falls and everything, but that was something that we had never done before. It was just like, hey, you know what? So if somebody says, hey, have you ever, check, done that. Done that. And I'm not asking you to do anything that's going to put your life in danger. I am asking you to live your life to the fullest. Life is a wonderful thing. And life is only wonderful if you leave yourself open to be a part of it. Think about it. So, I've talked a lot today. We talked a lot about the global vision. And it's important for us to really understand that the global vision is meant for us as individuals and as a community to know how far we are going to grow, how far it is growing. I mean, we're talking about a movement that's less than 100 years old. We're not talking about a 200-year-old philosophy. We're talking about philosophy that's evolving. It's not the same exact philosophy that it was when it once started. There have been many individuals who's come and added and contributed to it. You guys are one of them, whether you know it or not. We all understand that how, if anyone's here familiar with how physics go, when you have two people in a room and another person joins, the room changes in energy and other ways. And so that fourth and fifth and sixth and on and on and on and upward. And so that's the same thing with this movement. This movement grows. An example of living large. You're a part of that. So I'm going to conclude with a quote by Ernest Holmes, and this is very powerful. And he says, each person should train him or herself and do so consciously to conceive themselves as a success, sailing on that boundless sea of livingness, upon whose bosom we are all carried forward. We should go forward from success to greater success. And I'm going to say this again. We should go forward from success to greater success. So you talked about, she got that AA degree, bachelor's degree is next, master's, doctor, whatever. Or starting her own business.
No limits.
No limits. Living large. And living large and in charge isn't about how many people you can boss around and supervise.
Amen. Thank you.
It really isn't. Because what you're essentially doing is stopping someone else
Yes.
from living large. We're not about oppression. We're not about oppressing people. All thoughts of failure or depression must be erased from the mentality, and positive thoughts of achievement should take their place. Have faith in God. We just heard a beautiful song by Sounds of Love talking about it all fades to God. Have faith in God. Have faith in life. Have faith even in your fellow man. Know that right is might. Get some degree of real conviction and stay with it. The cosmic mind is neither wishy-washy or nilly-willy. I couldn't believe that Ernest Holmes actually used that language. The cosmic mind is neither wishy-washy nor willy-nilly. That says he was cool. It is positive, it is certain of itself, and it is sure of the outcome. So as you continue to join us, to join in on accomplishing the global vision, as you continue to go through the same game of life and focus not on dying as the baseball player, but on living, know that as you do, you will live large. Thank you.
Living large.